Wonderful. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to work through these slides. And it looks like many existing AmpCoil owners. So the one thing I'll say, just for the value of everybody who might be new to the AmpCoil universe, it's worth saying the AmpCoil system has been in the marketplace for a good number of years. And when we talk about the tool, we say this is a technology that complements the energetic body. It works with the energy body because we use magnetic waves to stimulate or encourage the natural recovery process of the cell. When we're referencing the technology, we always say there is software, there's different software programs that are compiled of a cascade of different frequencies or musical notes that are translated into an electromagnetic wave through that Tesla coil, that gold modified Tesla coil, that electromagnetic coil that is like the speaker system to the AmpCoil. And what we're doing is we're doing a bunch of things, but we are exciting electrons. You know, when you broadcast a magnetic wave through the body, you excite electrons. So in a manner of speaking, what we're doing is we're creating more light in the body. There's different ways to measure that light. That excitement of electrons is more energy, means the cells are making more currency that they make known as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. They're breaking apart that bond and they're releasing extra electrons. And that is really a light body. It might sound like a woo-woo stretch, but that's actually what's happening. And as a result, you'll see some of the science that references quicker bone healing or wound repair or immune system modification or better skin or better sleep, nervous system tone, more energy, a general feeling of wellness or positivity. And the reason we get that broad spectrum of reports is because we brought some of the natural healing mechanisms, the recovery mechanisms back online that already existed. The technology didn't do those things. It just opens the door. So I always love to start with that explanation, just in case we've got some total new human beings on that haven't been in the AmpCoil universe. And then the big news is today, we're going to talk about the AmpCoil Mat because AmpCoil has expanded their product library. Isn't that great? It's really exciting. I've been waiting for this. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for more to come because I love a product expansion. So I'm going to go ahead and share, and I'm going to go and bring up this Canva account, and I'll minimize this. Let me do this. Let me pin speaker view. Let me do that, and then I'm going to share this screen, and I just want to get a confirmation in my presenting, Magnolia, that I have a good visual from you. Is that correct?
It looks beautiful.
Wonderful. So as I said, AmpCoil's been around 2017, a little bit of development many, many years before that. And we've looked at the audience and we've looked at the people who use AmpCoil, and we've been listening. And we've been looking at the research. And really, if you look at the trends and the prevalence of chronic illness, it's skyrocketing in America. In fact, I just saw a disturbing figure yesterday that my likelihood to develop something like colon cancer is double what my grandparents would be. So all-cause mortality, all disease, all chronic illness, even life expectancy for the first year has taken a dip in the United States. It's really interesting to note, I am a purveyor of wellness facts. Wellness in the United States falls, I think it's like number 65 in the world. In fact, we're under Cuba. So you would assume one of the greatest nations in the world had this wonderful healthcare system. That doesn't seem to be where the numbers lie. We tend to be slipping down that list year after year. We could look at all the reasons, environmental toxicants. I would often point to chronic stress as a big driver. But, you know, again, we're looking at that, not to make a long story long. We're looking and we're listening through the AmpCoil lens, and we're seeing what we can do to amplify our product, amplify the message, and amplify and boost the signal. And one of those things is the AmpCoil Mat that's going to be launching in the fall of 2023. What you're looking at here is our lovely model, Reverend Laura Young, and she is holding our AmpCoil coil next to the amplifier and the tablet, but behind her is our new AmpCoil mat. So you can see it spans almost the whole body, and we're really excited about this new attribute. So really just jumping right into it, this very simple explainer. This is AmpCoil's brand new PEMF mat, and I want to reference it like this. If everybody really wanted a deep understanding of what you're getting an additional delivery system of the magic that already exists within the AmpCoil. You're getting an additional delivery system of the magic that already exists within the AmpCoil. So within this mat, you can see here, right? Visually represented is our coil. Within this mat are now 6 coils. So when we're sitting on this mat, what we're getting is we're getting twice the magnetic strength. I'll explain that. We're getting full body coverage. We're getting a dual delivery system when we combine the original coil and the mat. This mat is optimized for the AmpCoil 3.0, which is in fact sitting right next to it. The 3.0A or B models both work. We are developing compatibility for all models, and this is amplified entrainment. So when I say amplified entrainment, just so we're on the same page, what I mean is if I play a session that is meant to help nervous system tone or help my meditation state like higher self, that I'm doubling the signaling. There's more of the lesson plan coming at the body for me to pick up that higher state of gamma waves in the brain and amplify my meditation. I want to talk a little bit about especially these two, the 6 copper coils and twice the magnetic strength. So the alloy that makes up the coils in the mat is copper. Copper is the mineral that we decided on because it's unique physical property. It's very malleable. It's very strong. You can bend it, you can twist it without breaking or cracking. It's corrosion resistant. It's incredibly conductive, and it's very grounding, specifically for the root chakra. So I have experienced this at least 5 or 6 demos that I've done on the mat. People, before I turned on the device, they had actually felt joy, ease, tingling within their body. I'm very sensitive to energy, so I've always thought it was amazing just by holding copper that you can get this unique sensation. Obviously, that's amplified when it's wound into a coil in which energy is building as it moves through that circuit and then being broadcast to the body. AmpCoil is going to achieve this dual delivery system by incorporating what I like to call the dongle, but we would say an adapter. And so it's important to know that this adapter allows us to use the coil and the mat at the same time, regardless of what AmpCoil system you have. So the mat is equal to the magnetic strength of the coil, except it's distributed over 6 coils. So let me say that again. We have our typical AmpCoil system with a gold coil, right? That's its normal AmpCoil magnetic resonance. We're doubling that when we add the mat. So the energy that would go into the single coil is now equally distributed through the 6 copper coils in the mat, just so that makes sense. So what you're making is a PEMF pancake or a frequency pancake with the human body when you put the coil on top and the mat underneath. I just ran my 5th session. I was mentioning at the top of the webinar, Borrelia species and Borrelia. And the first 3 knocked me on my butt, but I feel really starting to feel good coming out of session 5. So I'm sticking with it. Always stick with your cleanse formulas for those of you AmpCoil devotees on this webinar. The adapter allows for the coil and the mat to be utilized at the same time, or you could do one or the other. The great thing about this mat, I think, was we're going to find a deeper level of customization and personalization to your coiling experience. So just to be clear, the combination of the coil and the mat, you get double the magnetic strength of your traditional AmpCoil. And I promise we'll get to all these questions in the Q&A and the chat. We have this great PEMF experience panel where we've had people that have tried the mat in the past. And I just want to offer, if anybody's been on the mat, aside myself, I can start. Magnolia, maybe you can come up next. And if there's anybody else that wants to raise their hand and say, I'd like to offer, we had some really incredible testimonials from the events we've done, but also people that have been working with satellite ambassadors have been trialing and testing this mat for us. I will say that it's a more felt experience, that people have noticed quicker entrainment, so a quicker reduction in pain, quicker reduction in fatigue. I really, now that I've had it, it's really hard for me to imagine coiling without the mat. It's also incredibly portable and travelable. I've rolled it right up in my suitcase, and it's been really easy to travel with. So Magnolia, is anybody raising their hand that wants to come up for our PEMF panel experience?
I believe we have Sudine on here who's going to share. Let me promote her
Well,
to a panelist.
great. Let's bring Sudine up. I will say, I'll answer this one. Can we still use the mat if there are dental implants? Yes, you definitively can. Or is it better to use the coil? You could totally use the mat. Can we use the mat placing the top to feet in order to avoid the head because of the dental metal implants? I don't think you need to be hyper aware of avoiding metal implants. You know, I'm going to say all usage questions, we're always going to defer to our support team. That's Lori Marcus, that's Marie. On these educational webinars, we don't take that role of support. But from my understanding and my deep understanding of the technology, not something you need to be fearful of. And we will come out with guidelines around the mat, where to put it, how to optimize it, how to space that out. And really, those things will be coming from the AmpCoil support team. But again, that is totally okay to use with dental implants. Great. And if Sudine is up, Sudine, how you doing?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great.
Awesome.
You're the pinned screen now.
Okay,
So go ahead.
sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Sudine Douglas. I am a practicing pharmacist in South Florida near the Fort Lauderdale area, and acquired my AmpCoil, I believe, December of 2022. Was really excited to get my hands on the device. And when I got my device, I did the whole ambassador training because I felt that this is something that I could use as a launching pad for a business, you know, having people go back to what nature intended, if you would. So my beautiful experience with the mat occurred in June of this year at the Upgrade Labs Biohacking Conference. And it was amazing. There, like, words almost cannot describe the experience that I had with the mat. You said it, Freddie, that it's a more felt experience. So if there are individuals that have tried using the AmpCoil with just the magnet, and they're like, I don't feel anything, I don't get it, this doesn't make any sense to me, you would definitely feel it if you're on the mat. So Magnolia ran the demo harmonizer journey on me, and that 30-minute or 27-minute session felt like it was 5 minutes. At the conference, I was actually working at one of the booths there. So I snuck away, you know, and got some time to myself. And if you're working at a conference, you know, it's like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of energy. So I was, one, looking forward to being on the coil, two, excited that I got to try the mat, but felt bummed that it only felt like 5 minutes. But what it truly felt like was I disappeared. We were at a conference. AmpCoil was in a very busy corner. There were a lot of people, a lot of talking, a lot of movement, and I disappeared from that space. I went somewhere that was not of this dimension. And when Magnolia was calling me saying, Sudine, your session's done, I was coming back into my body. Like she sounded like she was far away and was calling me from like, 2 acres away. And I'm on the other side of the field. And she's like, Sudine, come back. And eventually, as she's talking and talking, her voice kept getting louder and louder and louder. And it took me about 5 minutes before I could actually move. I opened my eyes and I sat there because I felt my energy slowly permeating my physical body. That's how it felt for me. So it took me like a little while before I could actually get up from the chair, because it was so amazing. Like words, like I said, words can't describe, and I hope I did it justice, but it felt really, really good. And I cannot wait to get my hands on one.
Amazing.
That's all I have.
Yeah, super, super powerful experience. I love those coiling sessions. I love being, I like saying, knocked out, down for the count. And yeah, it's funny, we rarely give ourselves that. And I just want to remind everybody that, whether you have access to an AmpCoil or whether you can find time, really human beings, we're meant to find time to rest and relax every single day. I know we don't, but you can't do it once in a while, and you can't just do it when you feel like it. It'll really have a cumulative net effect. Let me say this, if we're really want to lean into the stuff we're talking about and really take ownership, that the nervous system needs to be honored. It is the most paramount, powerful thing in the body. The only time your body is going around and eating cancer cells is when you're maintaining a deep relaxation, deep sleep at night, 2.5 hours. If you're not doing that, you're not repairing. So, right, you got to honor that with lifestyle, and this tool is meant to complement that. So look, I'm looking at this like right now. I just saw Sudine. I'm like, oh, this is Sudine. So thank you so much for reminding me that I shouldn't be looking at this computer screen, because it's blue light, and it's like, it's 6 o'clock Central, it's 7 o'clock Eastern. We're moving on in that daytime, and it's just, we've got to do things to mitigate the natural signalling. This sounds like a theme, like honoring the light body here. AmpCoil, blue blockers, all the things. So Sudine, thank you for adding value, and thank you for giving your feedback. And I can't wait for everybody to get their mat and start getting out more experiences. I love it.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Sudine.
Thank you. Magnolia, did we have anyone else on that had a mat, or do we want to should I keep going a little bit and just talk a little bit more about these other attributes?
Hannah's looking to come on, and so when she comes on, because she has been diligently working as part of one of our tech gurus that we have, I can ping you and let you know. And one thing that comes up for me I actually just had somebody here on the mat at my house in the beginning of the call, and one of the biggest phrases that I hear used when people are getting up from using the mat is, I feel like I was in a hug, because you have the full dispersal of the frequency behind you, the coil in front of you, and it's like a full embrace of frequency healing. And so I like to invite people into that frequency hug and into that experience, because it really is truly special. It is more dispersed over the body. I slip into that parasympathetic nervous state faster, and also stay in it a little bit longer. And one thing that was mentioned, I think it was by Sudine actually last time that she spoke, is if anyone's planning on integrating it into their practice of any sort, is making sure to leave some extra time after people get up from the mat for that integration, because it really tends to go deeper faster for a lot of people. That's what we've been hearing. So so excited for everyone to try it. And if Hannah is able to hop on, we will get her on here.
Great. Just, really like nuts and bolts, everybody loves a new product, but we don't want to like shy around what it costs. And that's $1,300. It's actually, it's incredibly competitively priced when you look at the the power, the 6 coils, the copper. We have a beautiful cover that we're making for the mat that I'll show you in a second. Have a new picture of the cover, a prototype of the cover. And some of the PEMF mats on the market that are 1/10, 1/16 of the power are $5,000-$6,000. So I'm super excited. We'll just read through some of our testimonials that were received so far. Feels like a frequency hug. I love that. Here's another great shot of the AmpCoil with our adapter box here. The Duo adapter allows for backward compatibility with older models. So you'll see it's the same plug as the coil. And then we've got our cord that will go to the mat, and we've got our cord that will go to our AmpCoil. Really easy breezy. Wait, where's this? I went into a rest state in a short amount of time. Now I feel rejuvenated and very clear. That's from Hannah C. And then we have one from Quinn. The mat can also be easily folded up and rolled up without fear of breaking or making it a perfect companion for your travels. With this mat by your side, you can take a step towards improved wellness wherever life takes you. That's from Quinn W, Quinn Wheelahan. And we just wanted to say we're very excited to share the new PEMF mat. Here's a really beautiful picture of this. This is going to be an easy thing to wipe down. It's going to be an easy thing to keep clean. And here we go. We're going forward on the road to wellness with your AmpCoil team. And I want to get back to the chat and just make sure we're all caught up. We've got a lot of questions in here. And first, I'm going to go to the Q&A just to make sure. Shelia says, can you talk about using AmpCoil to switch from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic? Which program or programs would you use? I love it. So, Ms. Shepard, I would say, and I'm going to answer this live, that there is a myriad of different programs that you can use to complement that parasympathetic state. And what I'm going to reference here is that I'm not the support team, but I'll give you some fun answers to this. I would also invite all 47 people on this webinar to say, as pro users as you are, what your favorite journeys are to complement the nervous system. Personally, for me, Relaxol, the harmonizer, the demo harmonizer, that is our everything but the kitchen sink journey. I respond very, very well to that. Positivity is wonderful. Deep sleep is wonderful. I've had great results from even brain reboot for me. I've got better heart rate variability. The other thing that I've been playing around with is Balance the Mind. I had said this before. I don't think I'd ever played Balance the Mind, but that one really does a good job to also calm down my nervous system. Great. We've got a couple other votes for Relaxol, Demo Harmonizer, Higher Self, stacking Higher Self with breath work. It's a great 20-minute journey. Just some, it could be a box breath, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, in for 4. That's wonderful. It could be an in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. I find I rarely make it through that breath pattern, in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Rarely make it through that without going to sleep. So those are some of my favorites. The other thing that I found really good sometimes is doing a voice print and seeing the 2 top priority organs that come up for me. The 2 top priority organs with the organ primer. And that's also been a good one where I'm short on time. That is a 11-minute, 12-minute experience that, it's hyper personalized. Other things I've loved is nutrition. And the other one that works really well for me, puts me at ease and helps inflammation, has always been, for me personally, Detox Assist. A little bit of history of biotoxin illness, Lyme and mold, all the things, right? I said a lot of journeys, but there's so many on there. Love giving and love receiving in the General Detox album. Any of the last 4 steps in General Detox, which are all really boosting all those glutathione frequencies. Those regenerative steps of the General Detox, the last 4 are also excellent for me. So, and this is also something that I would implore everybody to understand. The easiest access to understanding your nervous system is your respiratory rate, your resting heart rate, and your heart rate variability. The nervous system does not lie. So the time between those successive heartbeats, when it's in high variation, when there's a high variable, your nervous system's in a place to heal. And you can't fake that. You can't fake that one. I know people that got a lot of wellness gear and they got all the technology, but you can't fake it. You know, it's the self-talk, the self-chatter, the time alone, the time and intentional thought, the walks in nature, honoring sleep and hydration. There is no replacement for those nature's biohacks. We say that a lot on these webinars, but I think they are ones worth repeating. Great. So I think we got that one. My AmpCoil, this is from an anonymous attendee, is an AmpCoil 2 series. So that would be an AmpCoil 2.0. I believe it will be compatible with that. It will be compatible with Mat. That's correct. Yep. Yeah, you always want to call and ask our team. I'll just throw this out there. You know, we got a lot of ambassadors on the call. You can use the Aura Ring while using AmpCoil. Yep. Gerald, you can. Yep. So I use my BioStrap. It's fine. I've used it for years. I've never had a problem with it. Of course, if you want to be really strict and stringent to guidelines, it would say don't use other electric material, but I'll just give you my experience. Mine's been fine. That is in no way an endorsement to use your personal electronic devices. You know, I don't use my phone near my AmpCoil. That's a no-no because I'm trying to receive the frequencies, but the Aura Ring, the BioStrap, those are all garnishing informations. And actually, if I run a report on my nervous system and I run post AmpCoil, which you can use on BioStrap. I don't know if you can do that on Aura Ring. I can run a nervous system report. It's always a pretty cool spike to see in real time. You know, AmpCoil, it's worth saying for our practitioners, AmpCoil has the HRVV scan. That is the ability to look at both nervous system and predominant brainwave states. It's more of a practitioner tool. AmpCoil sells that system, also bundled with the AmpCoil, which is a great practitioner tool. I have that. I often break it out to get a baseline heart rate variability or nervous system tone if people don't have their own metric that they're using. Excellent, but the Aura Ring works great. Yeah, there's nothing. An Aura Ring does body temperature. Man, when you have basal body temperature, resting body temperature in the morning, you really understand how you're functioning metabolically. If you're a slow starter, your body, you should hit a point in the morning when you wake up when your body actually starts to get a little hot. That sounded very Rochester, New York. There's very wide vowel there, hot. Keep the questions coming, team. We're here for you. So any Mat questions that I can answer, I will. We went over what the Mat is. It does pair with all the devices. The big takeaways for me are the AmpCoil Mat. We double the power. We have a dual delivery system. You have the potential to have a PEMF or a frequency pancake, whichever you choose to use as your describer. There is an adapter box which retrofits to all our AmpCoil systems. It's optimized for our AmpCoil 3.0. That's our newest system that's 12 pounds. There is the fun facts that I love reminding people is that the coils and the new AmpCoil Mat are all made of copper. It's incredibly grounding, down regulatory because of the prevalence of nervous system dysfunction and increased chronic illness. That's why AmpCoil used that alloy in these mats. When will my, yeah, go ahead. I'm just gonna answer this last one from Daryl. When will my mat that I ordered become available? These are gonna be shipping in the fall and AmpCoil will be reaching out when those mats start to ship. We've had what do I want to say? We've had a landslide. We've an overwhelming waterfall of mat orders. So when we start shipping those, we're certainly going to announce that on an email campaign, and we'll let everybody know. Magnolia, go ahead.
And in that same breath, during the month of September, for those of you who have ordered a mat or will be receiving a mat with your trade-in or your new purchase, we are going to have special calls with our support team to dive deeper into how do we use it, how long do we use it, where do we use it, all of these questions. So stay tuned for more information about that happening in the month of September. But I see a question here, Freddie, from Karen that says, does the mat help treat the head? I know that Bartonella is in my brain and AmpCoil didn't want us to coil on our heads. I've been concerned about properly treating this aspect of my infections. Will the mat help with this?
Yeah, so what I'd say again, the great example is if you think about our first analogy that the AmpCoil, then let's talk about the initial system that everybody who's on an owner on here has an AmpCoil with a gold electromagnetic coil. What that coil, that magnetic wave is doing, it's adding the movement, adding to the movement of electrons in the body. So as a result, the body is emulating more light, there's more energy. That's why we get an improvement in the body's ability to heal. So the body doesn't have a line, here between the head and the neck. And I don't think, from the research I've seen, I haven't seen where the body has a line between the physical body and the mental, emotional body. I just talked to a woman last week, Eileen McCusick, famous for mapping the bioenergetic field, in which she's found where different layers of emotions and different traumas are stored outside the body. So I just like to say all that to say, where my symptom is might not always be where the pain is. And the point I'm going to make is that the coil is generating movement of electrons. When we get the mat, we're doubling the movement of electrons because we're doubling the magnetic strength. So one could make an analogy that we're getting more light. I like the analogy of walking into a dark room, and I've got one flashlight, and wherever I point the light is where I'm going to see. I'm going to identify what objects are in there. If I have more light, if I have almost like a flashlight and then I've got a headlamp, I'm going to see more area. I'm going to get more information. So personally, for me, and the people that I follow that really they get great results. So those are going to be people that work in biological medicine or terrain theory or naturopaths or holistic doctors. They don't treat really disease. What they do is they add oxygen, they add electrons, grounding, and light to the body. And they really just keep it's the signaling they keep giving the body to move forward. So what we're doing with this mat is we're doing a little more signaling. We're adding a little more light. We're adding grounding elements. We're trying to get you into that parasympathetic tone where I mentioned that is when the body is repairing chronic illness, tissue repair, disease, eating up cancer cells. All that is, we have an incredible amount of science that those working theories rest on. So we're just giving a little bit more. I personally wouldn't be worried about it being good or bad, Karen. I would just say, this is something where you're going to need to work with the support team one-on-one based on your body and where your pain is presenting, which is the head. But it's been my experience that healing is like peeling away the layers of an onion, and you'll never stop peeling. That's the amazing and frustrating thing. So I like the one foot in front of the other analogy. That's where I say the net of that big long story was when we use the coil and the mat, we get more energy and light into the body. Hence, a greater propensity to heal. Rusk James says, will I overload if I'm in the same room when someone using the AmpCoil when a client's using it? I'm asking because I know this when my biocharger has affected me when using it to treat so much. So I need to limit my time not being present when the clients are using it. James, what I'd say is certainly devices create a field, and AmpCoil is, because it's magnetics and not an electric field, because it's not a light device like the biocharger, the field's more localized. AmpCoil really even though we use sound, we translate the sound into an electromagnetic wave. So we can quite confidently apply the inverse square law, in which every time we double the distance away from the source point of the field generator, it drops in half. So you're not going to necessarily be in the room on the other side, something like a high-powered multi-wave oscillator or a Rife machine, and be getting blasted with the field in the same way. It doesn't mean you won't be exposed to the field, but it's just very different. So it would not be a concern of mine. I have definitely been in an event where I've been in a room with 5 coils and I'm in the middle of them and I'm facilitating everybody's session for 8 hours. And maybe at the end of the day, I feel a little zingy, but I might feel that way anyway from talking to 200 people. So again, I consider myself an energetically sensitive person, and I haven't been greatly affected like that. It just, I think it's the time under tension analogy. How much, when, who, how hydrated are you? What's your energetic state that way? But I would be less worried about it with something like the AmpCoil under the principles of magnetics than I would something like a multi-wave oscillator or a Rife machine. Does the AmpCoil consume more power when the mat is added to the coil? That is a great question for our engineer, Lynn Wood. I will get that question for you. I'm actually going to screenshot it and send that to our team. Will Detox Assist work twice as good? That has been my experience. I think you'll have to get on and check that out, Daryl. Again, it's like, is twice as much always good? Is more always better? Not always, but sometimes it is, right? Is twice the amount of filet mignon good? For me, yes.
Yes.
Is twice the amount of is twice the amount of squatting good? It might be too much. So I think you've always got to look at it. I think it would depend. Detox Assist for me is so gentle and I feel so good. I felt much better doing it with the mat and the coil. And it's just absolutely brilliant the way it works for me. I get such a reduction in any chronic anything with Detox Assist. It's by far one of my best journeys. I just respond very, very well to it. I just ran that after I ran my Borrelia cleanse. Lynn Wood, and is Quinn on, Magnolia?
Quinn is not on
Quinn is,
today.
okay, great. That's okay. I'm gonna just copy this question. I'm gonna send it. I just want to send it to Quinn right now. I don't think I'll get that for you on this webinar, Linwood, but we will get it.
Jackie is on the webinar though and might know.
I think it's I don't think we're going to draw a ridiculous amount of power. I'm telling you, I'm running a cold compressor in 106-degree weather to run an ice bath, and it cost me $50 a month, all day, every day. I can't imagine it'd be a couple more than a couple pennies. That's just my thought. It's certainly not going to blow a fuse. And our amp requirements and the board and how much power it can draw, it's in a very safe range. So, but I'll ask. That's the best thing. I don't want to give you an answer I don't know the question to. And I don't think it's worth us postulating on it. Going down here, does the mat plug into the AmpCoil unit, or do you have to use the adapter to use the mat alone? Kim, you will use the adapter always. Great question. Yep, it's a different prong than the coil.
Like me to show you? I have it right here.
We could probably lift that one up and you can see. I can also pull that picture back up.
Which would be good.
So
here's the adapter. And each one might be different. You might be plugging it into the front or into the side, but this one plugs into the side and you plug in your coil. I am not Vanna White. You plug in your coil on this side. And
yep.
then the mat is going to plug in on the other side.
And the mat, you can almost hold that up to the screen, Magnolia. The mat coil. It's a totally different plug. Yep, than our traditional AmpCoil coil.
And my daughter's making an appearance. And also you can run the mat by itself. You can run the mat by itself. You can run the coil by itself. I personally have not run either one alone very much since having the mat, but it is possible to do one without the other.
Yes, great. I'm going to keep at these questions because we got more coming into you guys are doing such a great job with questions. I can't tell you how much more fun it is to answer questions than sit here and try to come up with filler. I'll fill the space. Would this mat help with a hip problem? Marla, great question. It will always depend on what the driver of the imbalance in the body is. Is the hip pain sciatica? Is the hip pain mental emotional imbalance with the your maternal side? Is it heavy metal toxicity? Is it a spirochete in that tendon? Is it an old sports injury? Because that's going to depend on what I'm going to play, how long I'll need to play it, and what order. So this is the fun thing for me. I think if it's not fun, it's arduous, that you almost gotta you become your own detective. It's like, what's the driver of the hip pain? I will tell you this. I talked to a guy that was he does MRI imaging, and he's a physical therapist, and he was just so mad at the medical industry. He was so mad at it. He said, all I hear is these doctors telling people that they have bone on bone. He goes, I've never seen a bone on bone, never seen it. He goes, I see limited cartilage, but he works with a technology that also works with a sound wave that helps to regenerate tissue. And at the end of the day, he feels many, many times that replacement therapies are too soon, that they're not needed. And that was his story. It was really interesting to hear him say, he's like, yeah, it's never as bad as they see on an imaging screen. And it's a gnarly procedure. Can an infant be on or near the mat? We will go with our Jackie. It'll be our standard guidelines for ages of coiling. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. It's been a while since I've reviewed that, but I want to say it's in the months old of children. But I will always say, please, please, please reach out to our AmpCoil support team and just double down on the answer. It's very young. It's very young. PEMF is quite safe. It's not counterindicated for children. And Marla said, my dad fell off a bus and hasn't walked right since. So certainly, Marla, I would get in there with that. Their general detox, both the tendons and the ligaments and the bone journey. I would get in there with that pain release. I would get in there with a demo harmonizer. Those would be ones I'd be looking at. I would be running more aggressively if it was a recent injury. Yep. Mary says, can you run two people at the same time, one on the mat, one on the coil, and would it be equivalent to running the coil individually? From our understanding, Mary, yes. From our understanding, yes. From our understanding, the energy that goes to the coil is the same that will go to the 6 coils in the mat. So that's a great point. You could run two people. Although it'll be a little differently, right? There are smaller coils spread out over bigger different metal alloys. What I would personally do is I would have, this is just me, I would have half the person on, I would have two people sitting on each side of the mat, and then I would split the coil between the both. So if it was on the side of each hip. But that's a great point, Mary. You could totally do that. Lisa says, I'm finding I have some electrosensitivity as of late. I haven't coiled for too long, but find if the black cord touches me, I feel little shocks. I have run the electrical sensitivity on the black cord. It's very possible, Lisa, that you have some extra, you could have some extra static electricity, some piezo electricity. When people tell me that, I always tell them to look at the grounding in their house. I check out around your bed frame. Sometimes people's bed frames are pushed up against a circuitry in a wall. We run 60 hertz. Yeah, maybe you need a U cord, but the system is ground so that the black cord wouldn't have electric. It wouldn't have an electrical field coming through it. Yeah, I would always look at the wiring around your house. I would check the grounding in my house. I would look at those things first. I would be super, super diligent about getting outside bare feet for an hour, and I would definitely go outside after I coiled and ground. That would be a big one. Remember the coil, it doesn't generate an electric field. Oh, it's only since the new accident. I never felt it. Interesting. Well, Lisa, I certainly feel, and again, I want to throw out a disclaimer. I am not support. I don't give support style information or recommendations. I'm not a medical doctor. None of what I say is for you to treat, cure, or mitigate disease. This is simply, we're having a conversation, so I am waxing intellectual with you, and I'm going to theorize that certainly the trauma of an accident can trigger the nervous system to be hypersensitized. So there's nothing wrong with taking a little break from coiling, even like a week, Lisa, and just being so diligent about being outside and grounding. That's what comes up for me, not medical advice. Yeah, that nervous system, man, when you go through that, when you have an incident, it's really hard to pull back and let go. I said this fact on the last call. Yeah, thanks, Freddie. I have been doing that for sure. Hydration, sunlight, grounding. Lisa, those are the big ones for me. It's tough. It's tough. You know, I just had a friend, she lost her father in a car accident, and then she just got in a really bad car accident. It's been really hard for her to get back online. Really, really hard. And she knows all the tools, she does all the things, and it's just, you know, this is what it is to be human, right? The waves keep coming. So we got to lean into community, lean into the tools. Yeah. Yeah, I certainly empathize with you, and my heart goes out to you. So but just don't be afraid to take a little break. Yeah, sounds like a tripped nervous system to me. Interesting. And check the grounding in your house. I'll say that. I'm going back here. I think I got all these questions. I have.
Freddie, did you get the one from Sherry that asked, are practitioners charging the same for a session, including the mat?
Where's that one?
It's up towards the top. And I mean,
Maybe
I would love to use this as a perfect opportunity for a shameless plug for our ambassador program and our practitioner program, because as we do expand the use of the mat to include clients with our practitioners, we will have more information about that on the ambassador call. So more to come. And also our ambassador program is ever expanding. And as we get this new technology and we as individuals start sharing it with more people, it's so inspiring to join the ambassador program and get together with other activated individuals, both in the health and wellness industry, as well as just AmpCoil enthusiasts, and share our experiences with each other. And so if you're interested in joining the ambassador program, please get in touch with me. You can do it at ambassadors@ampcoil.com or magnolia@ampcoil.com, and I can get you all set up with that. It's kind of like, I sometimes recommend just doing it, even if you're not a practitioner or not sharing it a lot, because it takes the AmpCoil experience to another level. We have a call every Thursday where we share our experiences, what's working, what's not working. And so again, if you're interested, reach out, because I would love to see you in that container as well.
Great. And Russ, thank you for giving love on the podcast with Luke's story. That was so fun. That was 2 years ago. What? It's crazy. It's been too long. We need to do another one with Luke. Kim says, practical question. How small does the mat fold up? I don't know. Magnolia, do you have a mat next to you? Oh, your audio is lost. Your audio is off.
I do. I
You're
have
muted.
it. Let me grab it and we can do a little.
Grab a mat. Yeah, you could roll it, you can fold it in half. But I wanted to say this, Kim, that we'll be coming out with like AmpCoil care guidelines for the mat and instructions for caring for your mat, which will not be coming from this video. But you can see Magnolia is pretty tall. That's the mat. It's quite large. Yeah.
It goes from about, your occiput down to the bottom of your tailbone, to your coccyx. And
Yep.
when I've traveled, I have kind of tri-folded it.
Yep.
And squished it into my carry-on luggage.
Yep.
Freddie likes to roll his. It's so great, the malleability and flexibility for sure. So it's kind of like if anybody goes camping, it's almost like one of those thermarests or camping mats.
Yep.
You can do it that way.
And then also the cover that Magnolia has is not the cover that will go out with these coils. So we'll just say that it'll be a little stiffer, the mat. So we'll come up with care guidelines for that. Not a mat question, but someone asked if we use the AmpCoil for mold, do we still need to take supplements to remove mold? We'll always Shayla will punt that one over to our AmpCoil support team. I would ask if anybody is on here that has suffered from mold or biotoxin illness, do you take binders, and what has been the most effective binder that you've used? Please throw that one in the webinar. That's a great poll the audience question. I can only share my experience. I certainly am a huge fan of binders and fulvic and humic acids. Much more over charcoal for me. They've been much better than an activated charcoal. There's a myriad of different brands. There's Mother Earth Labs that I love. There's Cellcore that I love. Cellcore, you're going to need a practitioner to hook you up with that. But
Beam Minerals.
Yeah. Yep. I got that one. We answered live. Sounds good. Answered live. this one we answered live. Great. Susan's done compounded cholestyramine was the best mycotoxin binder for me. That's amazing. I will give you disclaimer for the cholestyramine. Sometimes that causes intestinal cramping. If you have adhesions, that is not a binder for you. But cholestyramine is the pharmaceutical grade. They actually give that to cows and pigs to deburden them of mold because the straw in the hay is so moldy that some of the farm animals get. I've actually seen marketing videos for that. It's really wild from the farming industry. Buy your cholestyramine for your pigs and cows. What a world we live in. So I think I'm just double checking. Yep. Lisa, you also might find, Lisa, just going back to your electrosensitivity, you might find that the copper in the mat is very grounding, and maybe just doing that alone might be a good option for you. All right, team. Well, we're at 6:32. We respectful of everybody's time, including our friends on the East Coast. It's 7:30 already. It's 6:30 on my coast. It has been a full day by design. I would offer everybody on this webinar that we could go ahead and maybe the challenge till we meet again, till you see us again about a new product or new software or new AmpCoil universe thing is what are a couple things you can hold yourself accountable for? It's always the small things that we do for 60 to 90 days, not the all out, everything but the kitchen sink that we can only maintain for a week. And consistency is king. Time over tension is going to give you not only the body you want in the gym, but the mind that you want access to and the word recall that you want. That is where your power is. So one thing that I've been playing around with is removing the word busy. I've done to say it because what busy insinuates is that I have lost control of my schedule in my life, that somehow life has been forced upon me and I am under the hill of busy. So instead of saying busy, I say my schedule is full by design of both tasks and work and joy that fills up my heart. And that is an intentional exercise that I've done to my own schedule. It is full by design. So that is one thing I'm playing around with. That is the sub program that's always running on the undercurrent of me. And so I would implore you to do one of those for yourself. We are super excited. Stand by for a possible, I'm going to let the tea out. That's the tea. I'm like giving you the tea. That there is a possible, there's a possible event happening in September, a one-day event in the Northeast corridor that will be some type of an AmpCoil event. One day, Northeast corridor, possible master training. So we'll keep you posted. There'll be an email that will go out if that happens. Say what? That's right. So listen, maybe I'll be there. But until it's set in stone, we don't say those things. I'm going to let you guys go. We love you guys. Thank you for spending the time with us. Keep coiling. Keep sending us when you have positive feedback. I've had two great demos, and it's people that I had coiled before, and they both coiled in that, and they said, wow, this is different. So I'm excited. Yep. We'll keep doing it. We'll keep doing the healing. We'll keep hanging out. Don't be shy to reach out. Love you guys. Magnolia, is there anything in closing?
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Freddie. There will be a recording for anyone who missed it, or if you missed part of it, or you want to send it on to someone. So check your email for that. It's always such an honor and a blessing to be here with all of you.
Big love, everybody. Bye.
Bye.